Sabotage is really real and it creeps up on y'all. That's what I want to talk about today. And so I have been reading through Gay Hendricks' new book, The Big Leap Year. Y'all know I'm a fanatic of The Big Leap, his first book that came out, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. And it kind of came at a really interesting time because, like, not only is self-sabotage real, I think when you are high performing, you're steadfast in your goals, you're driven, it creeps up on you in a way that you may not even recognize. And so some things have happened with me recently, and then some people around me. So I've been having like a lot of conversations about self-sabotage. And so Mary said, y'all love reading some books. Yes, that's true. Derek probably reads not even probably, he reads way more books than me, but I wanted to chat with y'all about the upper limiting problem, which is something that Gay Hendricks talks about in his book. I love the zone of genius part of the Big Leap book, but quite frankly, the upper limiting part is probably the most important, most life altering of it all, because when you start becoming successful, you start sabotaging yourself without even realizing it. And I think it's something completely different than imposter syndrome or any of this stuff in the way that it creeps up on y'all. And I'm going to keep this short because I'm at the Leading Women Defined conference. Y'all see this view behind me? I've like been finding ways to just keep the doors open because it's been very restorative. But anyway, so there's four: fear of outshining, fear of being fundamentally flawed, fear of disloyalty and abandonment, and then fear of more success bringing greater burden. And so, fear of outshining is this fear revolves around the belief that by achieving too much success or happiness, an individual might make others feel inadequate or jealous. It's often rooted in like your childhood experiences. And so where a person's accomplishments may have been met with negative reactions from their peers, their family members, authority figures, leading to a subconscious desire to dim your own light to fit in or avoid making others uncomfortable. And I'm always talking about like, other people's discomfort is none of your concern. It never is. It never will be because we give people too much agency in our lives. But like as you start to become successful, you're on your path, things are going right. There are these subconscious ways where we actually kind of hit a ceiling of comfort, a ceiling of sometimes discomfort along this process of something that you've never done before. And as a result of that, you start doing these four things that are rooted in your childhood based off of what Gay Hendricks said, start to come into play and kind of bring you back down to a level in which you're comfortable, and to a level in which you're not outshining other people. Whoa, outshining other people. All right, so that's number one, fear of outshining. Um, Number two is fear of being fundamentally flawed. And so the fear of being fundamentally flawed, this fear is the belief that there is something inherently wrong with oneself, which, if exposed, would lead to rejection or failure. It creates a ceiling on how much success, love, and abundance one can achieve because deep down they feel undeserving of whatever success is happening for them in this moment. This fear can lead to self sabotage whenever one approaches a level of success that conflicts with this deeply ingrained belief that there is something innately wrong with them. And I think fear of being fundamentally flawed is the upper limiting belief that is directly tied to imposter syndrome, right? Like, hey, this thing is too easy. I've been told that the path must be very hard. And so at some point, people are gonna find out that like I'm an imposter, right? Imposter syndrome, or that I don't have all the credentials, or I don't have all the education, or I don't have all the experience. All of these don'ts that you think that you're supposed to have, but you were able to get the thing done. So clearly you're doing something right. And so fear of being fundamentally flawed is the one that I feel is closely tied to imposter syndrome. All right. So number three is fear of disloyalty and abandonment. And so hold on. Give me one second. Okay, fear of disloyalty and abandonment. This fear concerns the belief that by surpassing one's family or cultural backgrounds in terms of success, happiness, or wealth, one risks being disloyal to their roots or being abandoned by their group. It's a concern that achieving beyond what is familiar or expected in one's social or familiar circles will result in isolation or rejection. So the more that you are succeeding, it's you hear that term where people say it's lonely at the top. Like that is associated with the upper limiting problem of fear of disloyalty or abandonment. That you will be more successful than the people that are around you, and either they will feel that you're abandoning them. I hear people say the saying, like, don't forget the little people. I'm like, why would you ever call yourself a little person? Why? Right. So you'll hear people say that. You'll hear people say it's very lonely at the top. Those are some sayings that I think we often hear from people around that. And then number four, fear of more success brings a greater burden. And so this is about the belief that with greater success comes greater responsibility, pressure, and expectation, which could become overwhelming. It's the idea that achieving more will only lead to increased stress and demands, possibly surpassing one's capacity to cope, and thus unconsciously individual limits. Sorry about that. Unconsciously, individuals limit themselves to avoid these perceived negative outcomes. Oof. People always talk about fear of failure, and they don't talk enough about fear of success. And number four of the upper limiting belief, fear of more success brings greater burden, is fear of success. Like if I achieve this thing, I got to maintain this thing. And if I get to level 5, I got to keep going to get to level 10 and level 20 and level 30. And can I sustain the success that I said that I want? Will I become the person that can do the thing that needs to be done in order to be able to achieve these things? And sometimes we're not ready for that. And so, as a result of not being ready for that, we start self sabotaging or sabotaging the things that we're doing, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously, because we're not ready for what is going to happen on the other side of success. And things happen on the other side of success. It's not always bad things, but we have to be prepared for each and every level of what's getting ready to happen. And sometimes we want something, but we're not thinking through like the full scope of what that means. Two instances come to mind, and then I'm gonna jump into the comments. Um, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine recently that has like a really, really big opportunity for them, like massive opportunity, something that I'm pretty sure that they have been praying for a really, really long time. And they got the verbal commitment for the thing. Everything's moving ahead. They had not sent the contract. And days are going by, weeks are going by. The contract is literally done, but it's just sitting there, right? And they have not sent it. And I had to have a conversation with them. I was just like, I don't understand. Like, why haven't you sent the thing so that this thing is in motion? And there's like, well, I was just waiting for like this other thing. But I'm like, there's nothing else for you to wait on. Like, why haven't you sent the thing? And I had to, the reason why this has been on my heart, because when I've been reading through the new book, but then the other part of that was that sometimes you just don't recognize, or sometimes the thing that you want now literally stares you in the face, right? And so it's a new story that you now have to tell yourself, because the dream that you dreamt is here in front of you. And I think for some of us, you realize that, like, dang, I should have dreamt big enough, because like the thing that I wanted actually came faster or easier or with a sense of ease and flow more so than I thought it was going to. Maybe it came faster than I expected it to come. And I gotta meet that pace. But if we don't realize it, like the thing will literally be there. And all you gotta do is press send so that the thing can happen and everything goes into motion. And so I had to have that conversation with my friend, because I was just like, why haven't you just sent the thing? Everything else is done. Just send it. And it's like, you realize like this is self sabotage. Like you have gotten to the point that you've said that you have wanted, that you know that you need to take your career to the next level. And all you have to do is press send. And yes, your life is going to be changed, but it's going to be changed for in every single way in which you prayed for. What are you waiting for? And the reality is, what we're waiting for is the uncertainty on the other side of the thing that we wanted. And so when you pray that you want one thing, and that's why I always tell people be very specific about what you pray for. Be extremely specific about what you pray for. Because when you pray for abundance and when you pray for new opportunities, if you're not specific, you may get any and all the things that come along with it that are good, bad, and ugly. And so you got to be very specific about what you pray for so that when it comes, you're prepared for the thing that happens on the other side. I remember years ago when I was traveling a lot. I'm traveling a lot now, but that's a whole other story. I was traveling a lot. And I remember being on the plane and just being so exhausted. And y'all know I talk about I've been burnt out quite 2 times. So exhausted. And I remember having a conversation with my friend Devin, who is listening, gonna kill me because Devin, I owe you a phone call. It's like 2 weeks ago. But I remember complaining to Devin, and he was like, but this is what you asked for. And so he's like, when you ask for the increase of opportunities and when you ask for the increase of bookings, it meant that you are going to be on the plane all the time and that you may be traveling by yourself all the time and that you're going to miss your kids' soccer games and you're going to miss these things. But this is what you prayed for. And so if you don't want to miss those things, you also he's like, you got to change your prayer. But right now, like this is what you ask for. If you ask for this one thing, it comes at a cost of other things. And you got to be okay with that, or you got to change what you're asking for to be more specific so it doesn't come at a sacrifice or a cost of these other things that you've also identified are equally important for you. And I was just like, man, but I'm tired, right? And he's like, I don't want to hear that. Like, this is what comes with what you ask for. And if you don't want to ask for something else, or do not rise to the occasion of what you're asking for. And so that was one thing. This other way, and like what Gay Hendricks said, like the four, right? Fear of outshining, fear of being fundamentally flawed, fear of disloyalty and abandonment, fear of more success brings a greater burden. Like these are four, like I think entry points into thinking about things that have happened. And y'all got to read the chapter because it goes much deeper than the explanations. I didn't have the book with me while I'm in California. Otherwise, I would really be able to go deeper into it. But it's like it's the entry point into just thinking about how self-sabotage shows up unconsciously and how each and every one of these has actually been rooted in something that happened in our childhood that set this certain feeling in our body that turned into action or inaction. Like some really powerful stuff. One other way that like every time I think about how self-sabotage has shown up for me, and it's showed up in a lot of different ways, even now, right? I think it shows up differently now, and I feel like I can catch it faster. But there's so many times, right? So a few years ago, I think it might be 3 years ago now, Derek and I had found this really amazing, like 3 acres of property in Bainbridge, Georgia, where my family is from, my dad's side of the family. And then like that's Derek's home, my husband's hometown. And so like there's this whole story about how our great grandfathers knew each other, although we like randomly met in DC. I'll share that story another time, but I've shared it before. Anyways, and so like we wanted to buy some property in like his hometown, my family's hometown as well. We found this property. We paid for the prop. We had the money to pay for the property in cash. Beautiful, like lakefront, just shy of 3 acres. Love it. Right. I remember when we took our son there, and we were like, and our son and our daughter, we were like, we bought this for you guys, and my son was just like, you bought me a forest because it's just nothing but trees right now. Anyways, and so all I needed to do was go to the bank, get the cashier's check. And then we were going to drive up to Georgia so we could meet with the realtor and like do all the closing and all the stuff that we needed to do. Mind you, the bank closed at like, I think this was a Saturday or something. Like, so the bank closed at like 1 o'clock. And all morning, I woke up when I was supposed to wake up. I put my clothes on, I did everything, and I kept just needing to leave the house and go to the bank. And I was doing any and everything but just putting my shoes on, grabbing the keys, and going to the bank. Mind you, this is the first time that we had bought property before, right? It was a very big move. It was a lot of cash, right? That we were buying something in cash. And every step of the way, I kept procrastinating. I kept finding things to do. And it was the most random thing. And I was just like, why am I not just leaving the house? Y'all, it got to like the last 45 minutes before the bank closed. And I finally put on my shoes and then I sat down on the bed. And I'm sitting there and like time is going by. And I'm just like, why? Like, I couldn't explain why I just wouldn't leave the house. And then it dawned on me that I was scared. And moreover, I was sabotaging what I said that I wanted, this plan that we put together, this bigger plan of what will eventually build on it. And in my mind, it's like, if I let the time run out, then I don't have to take this money out of our bank account. I don't have to make this move. And now I will have an excuse as to why this thing was impossible. It will go to somebody else. And then I am scot-free of this responsibility that is weighing on me because it's something bigger than I had done, that we had done, and it's something that I was doing for the very first time. And I finally left the house, got to the bank with like maybe 15 minutes to spare, eventually got the cashier's check. We went up there, we closed, like, and like it's history now, right? But it's always, and there have been career and business stuff that have happened along the way. But that was so weird to me as like, dang, why did I sit my ass on the bed? Knowing that I needed to get to the bank and knowing that I had very limited time to get there. But what I realized is it was subconsciously, there was an upper limiting. There was something amazing and big that was going to happen. And the easiest thing for me to do is not this amazing and big thing that was going to be disruptive to my bank account, right? But it was easier for me to sit down in my comfort of not having the thing and then being able to say all these external factors contributed to me not having it. And then if you're not careful, what you say is, it wasn't meant for me. Y'all know what I mean by that, right? Because sometimes we'll say, well, what's meant for me is what's meant for me. Yes, but these things don't fall in your lap. What is meant for you is what you go out and get. And yes, you can manifest the thing, but like you also got to man up and go get the thing. And that for me was like self-sabotage at its finest, at its finest. Right. And then this conversation that I had with a friend of mine, I was just like, I could recognize what they were doing because there was nothing standing in this way of this big moment for them. It wasn't an education. It wasn't not a knowledge of not knowing how to do a business. It was like, holy crap. The thing that I pray for is literally staring me in the face. Am I truly ready? And I think then the other part of that is like, sometimes when you realize the power of your words and the power of your prayers, that thing will scare the heck out of you. It will literally scare the heck out of you because you're like, oh my gosh, my words have power. And I think we all know our words have power. But when we're talking about like our big words have big power, that's different. It's like really, really, really different. Sorry, I know I missed like a ton of comments, y'all. Hold on, let me go back. Let me go back. Let me go back. The wealth of emotional intelligence. Hey, Dwayne. Woo, tears flowing from my eyes. Oh my God. Fear, it's so real. And you're constantly having to determine between like, is this what a real danger? Or is this my mind? Is this something that I am contemplating for the first time? Am I the first person to do it? Like there's all these things that go up against what you truly want to believe that you constantly got to fight. That's the part that gets you exhausted. The part that gets you exhausted are all the stories that you're telling yourself in your head every single day about what's possible and what's not possible. And the unfortunate reality is the story that we tell ourselves about what's impossible is much louder than the stories that we tell ourselves about what's possible. And so, like, how do you tell yourself like new stories? How do you tell yourself, like, hey, I deserve and I've worked my butt off for this opportunity? I remember getting like the first phone call that when they asked me to come lead Black Ambition, I was just like, come lead what? Right? Like it was so out of left field. And then because the journey took so long of like interviews and conversations and all these things, I remember like so easily doubt sets in, like, can I do this? Am I the person to do this? Are they smoking crack? Like, how did they pick? Like, if you're not careful, all of those things weigh on you. And that's why you need really positive people in your life. It's like, of course you can do this. Of course you can buy that. Of course you can dream that. Of course you can build that. Like, of course you can do that. Like, why even question yourself? I call them, and if you're fortunate enough to have really great people in your lives, I call them your "are you kidding me" friends. You don't get a lot of them in life. You may get one or two. Um, and they're your friends that when they'll let you vent. They will let you vent because they're good friends and they're a listening ear. But they immediately say something like, "Are you kidding me? You're this, you're that. How, why would you even think that they blah, 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 blah." Like, I call them your "are you kidding me" friends. And I don't think you get a lot of them. I have a few, right? James Taylor, who was one of my first business partner, I always say is a "are you kidding me" friend. Cassandra Henriquez, "are you kidding me" friend. My husband is definitely one of my top "are you kidding me" friends. And so is my mom, who's traveling with me this week. Are you kidding me friends? And there's a few more have happened over the years, but they constantly remind you that like you are, what are you smoking? To doubt yourself in the way that you doubt yourself, given what you've been able to accomplish, given your vision, given the fact that you are the vessel. You are the vessel in which the thing happens or does not happen. And if things are coming to you and flowing through you so that in support of yourself, your family, and others, then you get to this like your vessel, things are going through, and then you self-sabotage is that blockage of that vessel. And so the thing is coming to you, it's coming through you, and then it's met with self-doubt. It's met with what is it, what are they, the fear of outshining. Like, I don't want to outshine others. No, you are the light so that you can show other people that they can get through whatever darkness that they're going through. And so why would you fear outshining people when you're light? You are your existence, this dream that has been put upon you, like this journey that has your name on it, is the light that helps you get through the darkness of that tunnel. But more than anything, it gets to show other people what is possible. And for those people that think that you are outshining them, they're not ready. But there are so many people that are waiting for you to shine your light as bright as possible to help them navigate through the tunnel of confusion. And if you don't shine their light on bright enough, you know what? People that are following you either don't see the path on the other side, don't understand what's possible. But more than anything, the light is not bright enough for them to chart their own path as a result of that. Be ignited by your light and then keep the light bright for other people to follow behind them. And I understand sometimes when you say that, that's a very big responsibility for people to hold. It absolutely is. But like the reality is, and the opposite of that is people don't get to do what they're supposed to do until you do what you're supposed to do. And so it's one thing to be the light, but you also got to pay the light bills, right? And so it's my favorite quote from Allison Bond, Allison Bird, fear of outshining, right? And so you know that you are the vessel in which things come to you, things come through you on the other side. People get to do and be and stand up tall because of who you are. Why let your thoughts take that away from yourself, your family, and anyone else that needs you to be the light, right? That's jealousy. That's people being feeling inadequate so that they project those things onto you.